I still remember to this day how Jack strolled into my life as if it were yesterday or even today. There I was in one of the smallest cafes, sipping on what I hoped was their cheapest coffee, trying to piece my thoughts together before they even formed. Then he entered. He wasn't carried by fancy light or backed by inspirational music, and there wasn't a golden retriever that barked upon his entrance. All I heard was the sound of the doorbell above my head and got a whiff of stale coffee and his strong aftershave. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked me with a smile and a nod towards the empty chair. "Go ahead," I said, trying to play it cool despite my surprise at his sudden appearance. We hit it off right away, like two peas in a pod. We had the same interests, from binge-watching cheesy TV shows to arguing over the best pizza topping. Pineapple, no doubt. Soon we were serious about each other, not just casually hanging out. It felt like we had known each other forever, and before we knew it, marriage was on the table. But then came the tough part. Let me tell you, his parents were a handful. Meeting them for the first time was like stepping into a lion's den with a juicy steak strapped to my back. They had this way of smiling while silently judging you, deciding if you were up to par or not. "You're the one Jack can't stop talking about, huh?" his mom said, her tone more frosty than friendly. "Yep, that's me," I replied, trying my best not to let her intimidating aura get under my skin. His parents wasted no time in expressing their desire for us to sign a prenup. I wasn't interested in their money, but their approach left a sour taste in my mouth. "I'll sign your prenup," I told them, "but here's the catch. If one of us cheats, the cheater owes $200,000. Jack looked stunned, like I'd slapped him with a wet fish. "Babe, I never cheat on you," he insisted, his expression dead serious. "Yeah, well, my ex said the same thing before I caught him cheating," I shot back. It was either the deal or nothing. Jack eventually agreed, though his parents didn't seem too thrilled about it. We figured that settled the matter, but we were in for a surprise. One evening, we were curled up on our old, squeaky couch. We always talked about replacing it, but it held too many memories to let go. The TV droned on in the background, but we were too wrapped up in planning our dream trip to Switzerland. "We have to go," I exclaimed, excitement lighting up my eyes. Jack chuckled and pulled me closer. "Linda, you had me at food, but let's face it, our bank account is more suited for backyard camping than a fancy trip to Geneva." I nudged him teasingly. "Then we'll save up. We'll cut back on things we don't need, like your video games." He feigned shock. "Not the video games. Take my shirts, my shoes, even my beloved coffee maker, but spare the games." We shared a laugh. That was us in a nutshell, dreaming big while staying grounded in our simple life, and we were content. Our happiness didn't just lie in grand adventures, it was also in the everyday moments. Like Jack's attempts at cooking breakfast on Saturdays. He wasn't a culinary master, but he had somehow perfected scrambled eggs and toast, which he proudly served with his less-than-perfect coffee. "I'm feeling scrambled eggs today. What do you think?" he'd ask, already making his way to the kitchen. One day, as we tackled the dishes together, a mundane chore that felt special because we did it side by side, Jack approached a topic we'd been avoiding. "Linda, we need to talk about, starting a family," he said, breaking the comfortable silence. I paused, holding a plate in my hands. "I know, it's just scary, isn't it? What if it doesn't happen for us?" Jack turned to me, drying his hands on a towel. "Then we'll face it together," he said, a mix of nerves and affection in his tone. "Together? But we won't know until we try, right? How hard can it be?" He chuckled, famous last words, huh? But that's us. Whatever life threw at us, we tackled it together. Even when his mom started dropping hints about wanting grandchildren every chance she got, we handled it. "Linda dear, when are you going to give me some grandbabies?" "You're not getting any younger, she'd say, her tongue sugary but her message clear as day. I'd hold my tongue, flash a smile, and chirp, "We're on it, right, Jack?" And he'd chime in, "Mom, chill out, okay? These things don't happen overnight." But as time passed, the pressure mounted. It wasn't just from his mom, but from us too. We longed for a family, but it wasn't falling into place as easily as we'd hoped. Since Safia found a new hobby in making my life tough, our home felt like a war zone, her sharp words the main ammo. It all boiled over during one Sunday lunch meant to be serene and easygoing. Right on cue, Safia barged in, uninvited. Just as we were about to dig in, the atmosphere turned tense the moment she stepped in. Her eyes scanned the room like she was inspecting a battleground. "Well, isn't this a quaint little setup?" she sneered, eyeing the modest meal I'd whipped up. "Quite the effort, Linda. Looks like you've been slaving away in the kitchen all morning." Trying to keep the peace, I mustered a smile. "It's nothing fancy, Safia. Just something simple and quick. Please, take a seat." As we settled at the table, she launched into her usual spiel. "You know, Linda," Safia began, her tone dripping with condescension. "I was chatting with Mrs. Charlotte the other day, and she mentioned how her grandson just became a dad. It got me thinking, when are you and Jack going to give me some good news? Time's ticking, you know." My cheeks flushed with a mix of embarrassment and frustration. I glanced at Jack, hoping for some backup, but he suddenly seemed very engrossed in his menu. "Mom, seriously," Jack finally mumbled, but it lacked conviction, and we all knew it. Undeterred, Safia pressed on. "I hate to be blunt, but you're not getting any younger. You work hard for your money. Why waste it on Linda if she can't fulfill her basic duties as a wife? Hiring help for cleaning and cooking would be much more efficient, don't you think?" That was the last straw. "Safia, I'm doing my best here." I blurted out. "It's not like I don't want kids, and as for house and cooking, I didn't realize marriage came with a job description." Safia scoffed. "Marriage isn't a free ride, Linda. You have responsibilities, and frankly, you're not meeting them." The air grew heavy with tension, and tears threatened to spill from my eyes. But what hurt the most wasn't Safia's harsh words, it was Jack's silence. When he finally spoke, it wasn't in my defense. "Mom's right, maybe we should consider getting some extra help around here. It would take some weight off your shoulders too," he suggested. His words felt like a stab in the back. It was clear I was alone in this. In the days that followed, Safia's visits became more frequent and her criticisms sharper. She'd scrutinize every corner of the house, pointing out any flaw. "You call this clean?" she'd sneer. "Looks like a pigsty to me." Then came the jabs about my appearance. "Is that what you're wearing?" A wife should dress to please her husband. No wonder Jack seems exhausted. He comes home to this. I tried to stand up for myself. "Safia, I dress for myself, not Jack. And he's tired because he works hard, not because of my outfit." But it was pointless. Safia had made up her mind about me, and nothing I said seemed to make a difference. Jack's lack of support hit me the hardest. Every night after his mom's departure, we'd end up arguing. "Why won't you defend me, Jack? She's bulldozing over us, and you're just standing by," I plead. "Linda, she's set in her ways. What do you expect me to do? Kick my mom out?" He counter. "No, I expect you to be my partner, to stand with me, not her." It became evident that this went beyond Safia's disapproval. It was about us, our marriage, and whether we could withstand the onslaught of Safia's criticisms. As weeks passed, it dawned on me that this wasn't just a passing phase. It was a full-blown assault. If we didn't take action soon, there might not be anything left to salvage. Things between Jack and me had turned frosty ever since Safia ramped up her criticisms. But it wasn't just our home life feeling the strain. Jack himself had started behaving oddly, and it wasn't solely because of work stress. There was something else, something unsettling. It all began with his phone. Jack used to be open about it. We had no secrets. But then he began leaving the room whenever he received a call, and it was always from the same person, Paul, from work. One evening, I tried to sound nonchalant and asked, "Who's Paul? Work?" Jack visibly tensed up, a clear sign of nervousness. "Oh, just a new guy at the office who asks a lot of questions," he replied. But there were more changes. Jack, who never cared much about fashion, suddenly started paying attention to his appearance. The graphic tees and worn-out jeans disappeared, replaced by crisp shirts, slacks, and even cologne. "Since when did you start smelling like a department store?" I teased one morning, watching him style his hair differently. He just smirked. Can't a guy switch things up every once in a while? No harm in that, right? Then there were the late nights at work becoming more frequent. Another long one, babe, heat text. Sorry, this project is a killer. I'll be home soon, I promise, he'd reassure. But it would be well past midnight before I heard his keys jingle in the door. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. It lingered like a shadow. That's when I decided to hire a private investigator. It felt like a scene from a cheesy TV show, but I needed to know for certain. The evidence arrived in a plain brown envelope, heartbreaking yet undeniable. Photos of Jack with another woman, their intimacy unmistakable, captured in moments that shattered our years together. But it was the recording that cut the deepest. Their conversations filled with affection and plans made it painfully clear he was in love with her, or at least with someone else. I sat there, staring at the damning evidence before me, a chilling reality sinking in. This could be the key I needed if our marriage spiraled into a messy divorce. The photos captured stolen moments from our life together, while the recorded words betrayed every "I love you" he ever whispered in my ear. But I kept it all to myself, a heavy burden I chose to carry alone. I wasn't ready to confront him, not yet. I needed time to strategize to navigate the collapse of our marriage while preserving my dignity. The days that followed passed in a blur. Jack maintained his facade, and I played the part of the beautiful wife, smiling outwardly while crumbling inside. Our conversations became a delicate dance around the truth, each word carefully chosen, every laugh forced. "Are you okay, Jack?" I'd inquire, genuine concern lacing my voice. "Yeah, just tired, you know. Work's been hectic," he'd respond, the lie bitter on my tongue. It seemed like just another ordinary day until I accidentally overheard a conversation that would change everything. As I passed by Jack's office, the door slightly ajar, and their voices drifted out. It was Jack and his mother, Sophia, and their conversation wasn't casual. Their tones were serious, filled with purpose. "I can't keep this up, Mom. It's not just about having kids anymore. I don't feel the same way about Linda. It's like we're living together as strangers, not as a married couple," Jack admitted, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Sophia's reply was cutting. "Well, can you blame yourself? She hasn't given you a child, and what else has she brought to this marriage? But let's not be hasty. My 65th birthday is approaching, and we wouldn't want to miss out on a generous gift from her, would we?" Her cynicism felt like a stab in the heart. They were using me, planning to keep me around just long enough to benefit from a lavish birthday present before discarding me. "Exactly, dear. Just a bit longer," Sophia affirmed, her words dripping with malice. I stood there, stunned and furious. They were plotting to push me out of the family as effortlessly as crossing off an item on a shopping list. The pain ran deep, but it fueled a burning desire for vengeance within me. They thought they could manipulate me and discard me at their convenience. I was determined to prove that I wasn't just a pawn in their twisted game. A few days later, we gathered for a family dinner that felt more like a scripted performance than a meal. Sophia brought up her impending birthday with a smile that made my stomach churn. "Lean in," she asked. "So, Linda dear, what do you have planned for my birthday? Something special, I hope?" I met her gaze calmly. "Sophia, I've been thinking of arranging a dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant, an unforgettable evening." Her eyes gleamed with anticipation, and she exchanged a satisfied glance with Jack. They believed they had me cornered, but they didn't realize I was already 2 steps ahead. "Oh, Linda, that sounds lovely. Just close family, you know, keep it intimate," Sophia added, her voice oozing with insincerity. "Sophia, we'll make it a memorable occasion," I replied, the words leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. The weeks leading up to Sophia's 65th birthday felt like a slow march towards a reckoning. Every smirk from her and every indifferent nod from Jack fueled my resolve. My plan was straightforward yet daring: orchestrate a lavish dinner as a supposed gesture of affection, then unveil a monumental surprise. As with all well-laid plans, the devil was in the details. The night before the party, our home crackled with tension. Jack, oblivious to the storm brewing, lounged casually on the couch, absorbed in his phone. "Everything ready for tomorrow?" he inquired, still glued to the screen. You could say that, I replied, my voice masking the turmoil within. The day arrived, and as guests streamed into the opulent dining room we had reserved for Sophia's celebration, anticipation hung heavy in the air. My pulse quickened, not from nerves, but from the excitement of what was to come. Sophia, relishing the spotlight, luxuriated in the grandeur of her surroundings. "Oh, Linda, you've truly outdone yourself. This place is divine," she proclaimed loudly enough for neighboring tables to hear. As we settled in, the evening unfolded with a peculiar cheer typical of family gatherings. Laughs rang out, stories were shared. Then, as the dessert plates were whisked away, the waiter approached with the climax of the evening, the bill. He leaned in indiscreetly and murmured, "The staggering dinner cost $66,000. I handed over my credit card, my action going unnoticed by most. Then with a strange smirk, Jack decided to drop his bombshell. "Linda, it's time for the truth. I'm done with this with us. I want a divorce." His words hung heavily in the air, suffocating the room. Before I could fully process his announcement, Sophia, sharp and unyielding, interjected. "Well then, now that it's open, it's best you leave, Linda. Tonight is about family, and well, you're no longer part of ours." The room fell into a hushed silence, every gaze fixed on me, awaiting my response. But I refused to crumble. With a composure I didn't truly feel, I rose from my seat, nodded, and departed without a word. The chill of the night air slapped against my skin as I made my way home, the weight of finality crashing over me in waves. By the time I reached our apartment, I had a plan. I gathered my essentials, my numbness morphing into steely determination. This was the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. As I sealed my last suitcase, my thumb buzzed incessantly. Initially, I ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. Sophia's voice erupted from the other end. "Linda, the payment didn't go through. You need to fix this right away," Sophia's voice demanded. The irony was bittersweet. In my preparations, I had blocked access to the shared account, anticipating it would be Jack's first move. "Oh, Sophia, what a shame. But since I'm no longer considered part of the family, as you've made abundantly clear, I'm afraid you'll have to handle this matter on your own." Her indignation crackled through the phone. But it was a symphony to my ears. The ensuing chaos was a fitting conclusion to the charade my marriage had become. I heard tales of the restaurant staff demanding payment, Sophia's escalating fits, and eventually the police being called to defuse the situation she had incited. In the end, it was Jack and his kin who scrambled to settle the bill. A poetic retribution for the betrayal and indignity they had subjected me to. The morning after the dinner felt like emerging from a tempest. Armed with my plan, my determination, and a stack of divorce papers in hand, I returned to what once was our shared abode for the final time. The atmosphere was tense, palpable as if it could be sliced with a blade. Jack and Sophia stood there, seemingly embroiled in a heated exchange. Their animosity toward me seemed to merge into a unified front of fury. "Upon my arrival, you've got some nerve showing your face here after last night," Jack spat, his features twisted in a mixture of anger and disbelief. Quick to echo his sentiment, Sophia hurled her barbs. "Great, you've disgraced us in front of the entire city. Do you comprehend the humiliation of having the police summoned on account of your actions?" People were laughing, filming. I met their fury with a composure I hardly felt. "Shame is that your primary concern right now?" I retorted, tossing the divorce papers onto the table and placing the incriminating photos of Jack's infidelity atop them. "Perhaps you should direct your attention to this instead." Jack's complexion drained of color as he picked up the damning photographs, with his mother looming over his shoulder. Their rage dissolved into shock, then morphed into panic as they comprehended the gravity of the situation. "And let's not overlook the prenup, shall we?" I pressed on, my voice unwavering. "You stray, you pay. Precisely $200,000. Sophia's features contorted into a snarl. "You wouldn't dare. You can't do this to us." "Oh, but I can and I will," I retorted, my voice devoid of warmth, resolute in my decision. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Jack altered his approach. Please, let's discuss this. We can find a solution. I couldn't suppress a bitter, mirthless laugh. Find a solution. Do you think a few words can undo everything, Jack? It's over, Sophia. Ever the master manipulator, Sophia attempted to soften her stance. Linda, darling, think about what you're doing. This will destroy us. That ship has sailed, Sophia. You should have considered that before. There was finality in my words. The police shifted to desperate entreaties, their words a frantic attempt to salvage whatever remained. But my mind was resolute. I was done playing the victim, done with their deceit and manipulation. In the end, Jack had no recourse but to borrow money from his parents to settle with me. As I departed from that house for the final time, check in hand, I felt a burden lift from my shoulders. After all that transpired, I was finally liberated. I used the money from Jack to secure a down payment on a modest yet snug abode of my own. It's remarkable how much tranquility you can find in a residence that's solely yours, where each nook feels like a sanctuary away from the tumult of the past. Life is calmer now, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I have a job that keeps me occupied, amiable neighbors who offer nods and smiles, and a petite garden that's entirely mine to tend to. Occasionally, I catch wind of gossip concerning Jack and Sophia. Just the other day, while grabbing coffee from the local spot frequented by the community, I bumped into an acquaintance from the old neighborhood. After some polite chit-chat, they leaned in, lowering their voice, and whispered, "Hey, have you heard the latest scoop about your ex and his mom?" Their eyes gleamed with intrigue. I arched an eyebrow, intrigued yet detached. Can't say that I have. Do share. They seemed to relish divulging the news. Sophia isn't too thrilled with Jack's new girlfriend. Rumor has it, they're quarreling like there's no tomorrow. Puts your situation in a whole new light. We moved on from the topic. But as I strolled away with my coffee, I felt a profound sense of relief. There was a time when such news would have unsettled me. But now it's simply another chapter in someone else's tale. These days, my greatest worries revolve around whether my tomatoes will ripen before the squirrels snatch them, or if I'll ever master yoga without resembling a newborn deer. Life is simpler, quieter, and considerably sweeter on this side of the chaos.